Welcome, everyone. My name is Mark Hummel, and this is Mark Hummel's Harmonica Party. And I'm sitting here in Marin County with Pete Sears, who we met long ago. I want to say we met at, I think, Pat Morgan's house.
That's right. Yeah, Pat.
In Berkeley.
Wonderful.
And I think it was one of Pine Top Perkins'
it was one of the gatherings that
she would do.
She host. Yeah, incredible.
Right. So me and Pete have really just met again. And we're going to just talk about Pete's career in music. And I'll just kind of start with asking you about your early years. Now, where did you grow up in England?
Bromley in Kent, county of Kent.
Okay.
And somewhere between Bromley and Hayes, a little village of Hayes.
Okay.
Right in the middle there. Yeah.
And is that outside of London? Or
is it's essentially South London.
South London.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's become South London completely now. It's engulfed by it,
Yeah.
Yes.
And you go way back in terms of recording. You've been recording, I saw, since 1965 or something.
Yes. At the it was at Abbey Road, but it wasn't called Abbey Road then. It was EMI Studios.
Okay, right. I'd heard about that.
And I did a track there with a band, my first professional band called Sons of Fred.
Was Fred on the front cover?
And everybody wondered who Fred was, but
right.
It was actually the singer actually came up with the name. I found out years later from Spike Milligan, who was a famous.
Oh yeah, I know who Spike Milligan was.
He was with the Goon Show,
right,
crazy
comedian,
comedian. And he had a show called Son of Fred,
and
it was so out there. Apparently, I never saw it.
Right,
it was short lived, but
kind of the predecessor to Monty Python.
Well, yes,
in a way. Yeah.
Yes, it was really, and so Ray decided, he liked the show before it was taken off the air, and so he named a band after it. It was already called that when I joined.
Now, were you playing bass in it or keyboard?
Played bass and occasionally a little bit of keyboard, but bass, yeah.
Okay.
And we recorded I think it was a song called "Sweet Love" at the EMI Studios, Abbey Road, and it was the same studios as the Beatles were using. It was back there, very early stuff.
Okay.
So, and I remember the engineers wore white lab coats, and they had a cafeteria, with like trays and everything, and like a factory, and.
I've read about what those guys were like because they'd freak out at volume.
There were no faders; they were just big knobs.
Yeah, so they'd freak out at volume.
Like a submarine,
Yeah,
more bass, and but it was really a special. They had really good mics, and these guys really knew what they were doing. And so we it was a pretty good band. We had Mick Hutchinson, great guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
And who I later played with in Sangopal Dream in '67.
Okay.
And and we did Sweet Love, and then we went on to Ready Steady Goes Live, which was a TV show.
Yeah.
And we did that song on that show. Anyway, that was the Sons of Fred.
So did you guys open shows for other artists or play your own shows?
Mostly our own shows. We'd go on we'd play 6 or 7 nights a week, all over the British Isles.
Yeah. So you guys were in your little van.
Like a little van that keep breaking down, the whole thing, and fixing it with all kinds of strange ways. Ray was very good, our lead singer. He could fix anything to do with
That's helpful.
Mechanical,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good way to learn the ropes, so to speak.
Right.
Just working on all kinds of weather. So often going into a city, not knowing where we were going to stay, we just figure it out when we got there.
Really?
Yeah. So
wow.
We always try to get cash from the promoter at the end of the evening. He'd want to. They always wanted to pay us by check, but we needed cash.
So you could get a room
get
somewhere.
to the next
Yeah, right.
town.
Put gas in.
But there was, it was booked by a proper company, and we had a manager, Terry Oates, I remember, and so yeah, it was a great way to sort of get used to touring and playing with a band, and you sort of figure it out very, very fast. We didn't have teachers or anything to learn how to do anything. We just sort of play an approximation of something we liked.
What kind of music were you guys?
There was a lot of R&B, R&B back then, and and a little bit of blues stuff. But the singles we released like 3 singles, I think, and they were a little more on the poppy side probably, but pretty good. Did Baby What You Want Me to Do, and
she did some blues on those records,
which is great. But
that's always a good start.
Yeah, no, it was a good band with the Ray Redway and Alan Bowling were the singers, and they were very influenced by the Everly Brothers, so they had really good close harmonies.
Yeah.
So that was a great time back in Europe in that period.
Now, how did you get into music exactly? Was it like as a kid or high school or?
Well, I mean, as a kid, I was living in this prefabs, they were emergency war housing, right? Rows and rows of corrugated asbestos emergency war housing after the war, after World War II, because the bombing had been so bad that there wasn't enough housing for the returning soldiers, and so we got one of these things, and that's pretty much what I grew up in.
And your dad was in the military, right?
Yeah, he was in the RAF. Yeah. So, and so I had a friend who lived on had another one down the street. He lived there, and he had a piano, and I'd plonk around on it, and I mentioned it to my parents, and came home from school one day, and there's this piano glowing in the corner. And it was
had your name on it.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. And they had this old blind, well, he seemed old to me at the time. It was a blind piano tuner. And it was this beautiful person. It was a very kind man. And he tuned the piano, and then he'd break into Chopin or something, and just, so
mesmerized you.
Yeah. And so I took piano lessons, and
now, did you take lessons from him or from somebody
a woman, Miss Gardy,
right?
And then later on, I started weeding her garden to get piano lessons, as well.
So how old were you?
But I only got as far as I was about 8 years old.
8 years old, okay.
So, and I got as far as sort of sight reading the. Für Elise, Blue Danube and everything.
Right.
And then along came rock and roll and the blues.
And reading went right out the window, right?
I wanted to sound like that guy.
Yeah, Otis Spann didn't read.
And so it was a valuable foundation for me, to get. It's helped me a lot over the years.
Now, did you see a lot of the? Did you see any of the American Folk Blues Festival shows?
In England?
Yeah.
No.
Did you see any of those artists that were on those?
I'd not really. I mean, we had blues clubs, and we'd listen to to albums, and my brother would play jazz. He'd play Brubeck, but also Jimmy Reed and Tommy Tucker, and and I had a friend who had his older brother-in-law had a shop in Bromley, and he sold Folkways recordings, and so I was exposed to Lead Belly and Big Bill Brunsey, Bill Brunsey, all the Otis band.
Because I know Big Bill came over.
Yeah. Oh, they all did.
Yeah, they all came over.
I just didn't have a chance to see them personally, unfortunately. And although I did meet Freddie King. I did.
Oh, did you really? In England?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was good. That was at a rehearsal. He was rehearsing with a band I'd played in 1969. I'd played on their album, Steamhammer. They were his UK backing band.
I've heard of those guys.
And so, I just did an album with those guys, sort of with Martin Pugh.
Right.
But he was a great guitar player. But they also backed up Freddie King, and so I went to rehearsal because I played on their solo album.
What was he like to play with?
And he was a big giant fellow,
giant guy,
and just a sweet, very, he seemed like a really nice guy. I didn't go out with them. They didn't have a regular piano with them. But I just shook his hand and said hi.
Huge
huge
hand. Yeah.
But he seemed really cool.
I've heard he was a great guy.
What a player!
Yeah, he was incredible.
But
did you know Bob Hall by any chance?
No.
You didn't? Okay. He's a blues pianist from that played a ton in London. He was in Savoy Brown.
Nicky was a Bob, yeah.
You know who I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Bob Hall.
Yes, Savoy Brown. What a all wonderful musicians.
He was the keyboard.
Very much in the same vein as Steamhammer.
Right.
But
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, that whole period, and so early on, I just got into playing folk music and.
You get into rock and roll. Big
rock
time.
And roll.
Yeah.
And I remember when I heard High Heel Sneakers,
by Tommy Tucker. Yeah.
And it just blew my mind.
Right.
This the feel, all the nuances and the lyrics and the subjects and everything was just.
I just heard that last night.
Hit a nerve in me.
I heard that last night on a show I was watching. They were playing the original High Heel Sneakers.
Right. Yeah. Is that where did you? I don't think there was harp on there, but what inspired you to get into the harp?
I got into the harp really through, originally through, bands like Cream, believe it or not. Jack Bruce or John Mayall and Paul Butterfield. And then really close to that, I heard Lil Walter and I heard James Cotton. Yeah. And when I heard the older guys, that's when I kind of dropped listening to the younger guys. That was pretty much the deal.
When we were listening to that stuff, once I started going on the road, there was no way to play anything because the radio had awful shows, for a long time. It was really difficult to find anything good.
Weren't there like pirate stations?
As soon as the pirate radio station started up, then it was good. You could hear stuff.
So that actually changed how BBC operated.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And they that's right. They had John Peel did a show, which is just one show on the BBC. And the only way to sort of learn something from a record was to put the LP on and keep and then if you're lucky enough to be somewhere where there was a record player, and I wasn't a lot of the time.
Okay, so you really didn't
the
have
singer
that
would
chance,
come to you with a song, especially when I joined the next band, Fleur de Lis. We did all impressions and Motown stuff. Played piano with that band, and so somebody would come up and play the song, and you just play what you would play, and if you're lucky, you get to hear the original. But those albums really, they completely. We're all trying to sound like those guys,
like the black singers.
Absolutely, But it came out. Sounding very different, even with a Celtic influence at times, and you just did, but it created all the rock, that British rock,
kind of an interesting mix of everything,
and we liked the early rockabilly a lot, that stuff, and
Did you get to hear like people like Eddie Cochran or Gene Vincent or?
I did on
Just
the
on the
television.
radio.
When they were
On the
coming
television.
over visiting.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah, I'd watch the blues guys too, because they were
did you
our
on
heroes.
TV?
Oh yeah, they were almost mobbed at the airports like the Beatles or something.
That's so amazing. That is so amazing.
They were our heroes. You know?
Yeah, that is
they
so
couldn't
amazing.
believe it.
Yeah.
Come over.
Well, I hear John Lee Hooker had big hits on the
Oh
radio.
yeah.
In the '60s.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And
in England. Yeah.
And I later played with Long John Baldry.
That's right.
I did Rod Stewart's Every Picture Tells a Story.
Right. Yeah.
Playing keys
I knew you
on
did that. Yeah.
And keyboards in there, but Long John had played on there, and Rod was.
Okay. So he played
for Long John.
So Long John Baldry played on.
Yeah, he
Every
sang
Picture.
on it. Yeah, Every Picture Tells a Story. Yeah, he sang a backups or something.
Oh, did he? I didn't. Man, I used to listen to that record all the time.
So Maggie Bell, and I'm pretty sure. Was it? Yeah, he sang backups on something. I can't remember which one it was now.
Yeah.
Or was it Gasoline Alley? I don't know.
Are you on both those albums? Or just
the first one was
Picture?
Gasoline Alley.
You were on both.
Mickey Waller, the drummer, introduced me, and I did bass on Cut Across Shorty, and piano on Country Comforts.
Okay.
And then the next one was Every Picture Tells a Story. And then the next one was Never a Dull Moment.
So was that
piano and bass.
Did he still have faces at that point, or was it
all the way through the whole thing?
So he had faces through the entire
and
time,
course,
but those were his first solo.
And he'd bring the faces out on his solo albums to play as a band, on one track every album.
Right. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the rest of the time, half the faces, because of Ron Wood. Ronnie played all the electric guitar.
Yeah, he's on a lot of those records, isn't he?
And all of them.
Yeah.
And Ian McLagan, the great keyboard player with faces, played the B3.
Okay.
And I was playing the piano. And Mickey Waller was on drums.
Right. I met him one
Kenny
time.
would come out, and Ronnie Lane would come out on the one track.
Right.
And do it as a band.
Right.
But, the rest of the time, and Martin Whittington wrote a lot of that music.
So how did you end up?
Genius.
How did you end up on all those records? How did that happen?
Mickey Waller was a good friend.
Introduced you?
I knew him. He was playing with Jeff Beck on that Truth album.
And so was Rod.
Yeah, and Ronnie played bass in that band.
Right.
But I knew he was a guitar player because when I did the Sons of Fred, he'd been in a band called the Birds.
Oh, interesting.
He played on the same bill a few times.
Interesting.
Spelled differently than that.
Yeah.
And so Mickey and I when I was playing with Sam Gopal Dream, playing Indian music in all the psychedelic clubs in 1967. That was an amazing time.
I bet.
With Pink Floyd and everybody, all these bands and early Fairport.
I can imagine.
But Mickey was around, and I was.
I met him in Finland one time.
Oh yeah, what a character.
Yeah.
And he introduced me, brought me down because we were in a band with Lee Stevens, who was the original guitar player with Blue Cheer, and we had a band called Silver Meter.
And was that here or was that in England?
No, it started here. It was my first time I came over.
Now, what year did you come to the Bay?
69.
Okay, so
69 was the first time I came over.
And when were the Rod Stewart records? Were those in 68?
So, the first one was 70, Gasoline Alley.
Okay, so you came here and then went
back. But I was here, and then we used to rehearse and formed Silver Meter in Venice Beach, and then came north here. Met Tom Donahue, big Tom Donahue.
Right,
he became our
DJ,
manager. Got us a record deal, and we went to England to record at Trident Studios.
Okay, so in other words, you went to England to record with this band.
Yes, that's right, and we rehearsed for a tour.
Right.
The Stones studio, rehearsal studio, and Charlie came down. See Mickey, and he played a few tunes. Just had some fun doing that. And Ian, their road manager, piano player, he ran the place. And then we recorded, as I say, my first album, and then came back and did a tour of the States.
Okay. Of the States. So how long were you in England when you did that? Do you remember?
Oh God, just a few months. It's kind of a big blur, you know.
I know it's hard to.
I had to be about 3 or 4
everything.
months, you know,
Okay.
and then we went over and did a whole tour of the States as Silver Meter, and the next, and then I went back to the States. And, did Every Picture Tells a Story.
Oh, so that was recorded in.
Oh
in the States.
no! After Silver Meter, I joined Stoneground.
Oh, okay.
in England.
But I'm trying to get straight.
first thing.
I'm trying to get straight. When you were on the Rod Stewart records, was that
Was
in England or here?
Always here. I'm sorry, no, always in England. So,
Okay, those were
Morgan
in England.
Studios.
All right,
I forgot where I was for a minute.
Right.
Pathetic, old
Yeah.
age, you know. Yes, at Morgan Studios in North London.
Okay.
All 4 of the albums I did with Rod.
Oh, you did 4 records.
Yeah,
with him.
yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
We're at Morgan Studios, and
What were the other 2?
Gasoline
Alley,
Alley, Picture Tells a Story,
Picture Story.
Never a Dull Moment.
Oh, okay.
And I wasn't able to stay for the big photo on the inside, so my name ended up there somewhere under the soccer ball, I think.
And what was
Anyway,
the 4th?
But I had to get back because Nicky Hopkins wanted me to play with him, and Nicky wanted me to play bass with him.
Right.
In a band he was getting together, and he was out with the Stones, and he rented me a house in Mill Valley while he was on tour with the Stones, and so I had to get back to take possession of it. So I couldn't stick around for that. But and then so that was Never a Dull Moment. But I played on Italian Girls and several other tunes, and played bass on Rather Go Blind, that song.
Wow. So you're on a lot of Rod
And then
Stewart
the next
songs.
one, the last one I did with him was Smiler.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I had one of my favorite tracks I ever did with him actually on that.
What's it called?
Sweet Little Rock and Roller with Chuck Berry.
Oh, yeah. I know that.
We did a version, one take, and it was funny really because Mickey had a dog, a boxer dog called Zach, and he would always sit next to his drums, you know, just quietly sitting there, you know, while Mickey recorded.
That's great.
Yeah, and then so we launched into Ron opened into the opening strains of
Right.
Sweet Little Rock and Roll with the guitar intro thing,
Right.
and the dog started barking. Zach started barking, and they did a back and forth thing. You know,
That's great.
and we were all like
Did you guys
trying
leave it
not to
in?
fall on the ground and laughing. You know,
Did you leave it in?
and we somehow kept going, and Rod left it on the track.
That's great,
The,
man.
the
That's
feel
awesome.
of that was one of the best
That's awesome.
feels, you know, I mean, it was
I love
completely
it.
live. We did all that stuff live,
Yeah.
mistakes and everything.
So basically,
That's
you
a
guys
lot.
weren't overdubbing anything.
Well, little bits, yeah.
Yeah, little bits.
There'd be some. I put some, like on Maggie May, I put like a Celeste ring, you know, occasionally something like that. But Rod would sometimes, use the live the recording vocal, or the or he'd overdo that over, you know, like most people.
Overdub?
Most people
Yeah.
did that.
Yeah, most people use the live or the overdub.
Well, no, most people overdub their
yeah,
vocals, but,
right, just
but
'cause it's-
Rob would
Yeah.
use a lot of live vocals.
Did he really?
Yeah. I think
Wow.
so. And then, of course, they overdubbed some backing vocals, and
Right.
Ron Wood would play. He played most of the bass on that stuff.
Oh, did he really?
I played it on 2 tracks, Cut Across Shorty and Rather Go Blind later on, but most of
Yeah.
the time it was Ronnie, because
Interesting.
Ronnie had played bass with the Jeff
With
Beck
Jeff
band.
Beck.
So
Now, was Nicky Hopkins in Jeff Beck?
yeah,
He was.
Yeah,
That's what I thought.
Yeah. He
Yeah.
played on the album.
Right, he's
Yeah,
on the first
the
album.
Truth album, one
Truth,
of the best
yeah,
albums.
right,
ever
exactly.
made.
Yeah, because I remember, because there's a slow bluesy place.
Yeah, that's right.
Right, right. I
And
remember that.
but I don't know if he toured with them or not. He wasn't playing with them.
Now, did you tour
when
with
I
Rod at
when I
all?
saw them? Huh?
Did you tour with Rod at all?
No,
Never.
no. I was
Yeah.
I was pretty much, a session guy.
Now, was that more because was he playing with
otherwise
Faces
I-
during that whole time?
Yeah,
He was.
Yeah.
I know the first two he was.
They play the stuff that we did.
Right.
All the Rod's live stuff.
Yeah,
because
because
solo album.
I saw Faces one time at the Hollywood Palladium, and they did a lot off of the Maggie May record. That's
right.
album with Maggie May on it.
They do that, but
and Gasoline Alley.
Ian and Ronnie and Rod. That's a large portion of the band.
They were great, man.
Rod's solo albums.
Yeah, they were great.
And, we had some. We'd go over in the afternoon, and Rod would play the song at his house on an acoustic guitar, and we'd go down to the studio and do it.
So was he writing most of that?
A lot, yeah. He write a lot of. Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he's a really good writer.
Yeah.
But the changes, most of the changes were written by Martin Whittington.
Oh, really?
Brilliant guitar player. He played all those little classical interludes.
Oh, interesting. So Rod would come up with lyrics and kind of some of the melody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Ron would, of course, was included in the writing. Yeah. And but every picture tells a story. It was, that was I think that's probably my favorite album. I think.
Yeah, I'd say that and Gasoline Alley are the two I used to listen to all the time.
And so I had on the album cover, we all got our little box with our name.
I'll have to look. I still probably
when
have
the
that.
CD started coming out.
Yeah,
that
you lost all that. Yeah, that's a shame. Now, do you ever hear from those guys? Do you ever hear from Ronnie or Rod?
I see Ronnie when he comes through with the Stones. Yeah,
you do.
Well, I can go back and see him. I don't know if I'll be seeing him this time, but but we got pretty close there for a while, and
I would think,
and I played bass on his solo album.
Oh, cool!
Got my own album to do back in the day on one track.
Oh, cool!
On the Mystifies Me, we had Mickey Waller and me. And
now, is Mickey still alive?
No, he passed away.
Okay.
A while back, he sort of drank himself to death.
Did he really? Yeah. Wow, that happens a lot with English musicians, doesn't it?
Yeah. He was a character. We toured all over America with the Long John Baldry Blues Band.
Oh, okay, all right.
Band that was.
So you toured with that band?
Yeah, in 1970.
Now, was he already in Canada by that time, or was he still in England?
He was it's still in England.
Still in England. Yeah. Okay, because he lives. Didn't he live in Vancouver?
He did later on. He moved to Vancouver.
Right.
And Kathy McDonald sang with them a lot. And
I
arranged and co-produced Insane Asylum, which was.
Was that his?
It was Kathy's
Kathy's record.
Solo album. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I'm reading a lot about her right now, and I'm reading a book about Leon Russell, and she had a lot to do with him.
Yeah,
for a while.
Great. But, Rod. It was very good with songwriting, lyrics, and as a live performer, he was very influenced by Sam Cooke.
Oh God, yes. He's about the closest
Dylan,
thing. He's about the closest to Sam Cooke of anyone I've
Bob
heard.
Dylan,
him and like Bobby Womack and
he didn't
maybe Johnny Taylor.
He didn't do covers, but he had that influence, and then it sort of in the early years.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, he really did. I saw him one time on an Apollo. They did an Apollo show.
Yeah. And
he did a Sam Cooke tune, and people just ate it up.
Yeah.
Something. Yeah. Didn't he? I think he recorded "Twist the Night Away." I think, didn't he?
Oh, he did, didn't he?
So it sounds like you're kind of back and forth with the States and UK.
That's right. Silver Meter with Stoneground, and then we recorded an album, went back,
right.
And then.
So would you stay in the band even if you went back there?
Then every picture tells a story back here, and then I was going back and forth, as you say.
So with Stoneground, how did that work? Did you stay in the band or not?
I was in the first band playing Europe, and then some in the States.
Okay.
And then I left those guys to come back and play on every picture tells a story, I think.
Right.
Yeah,
so when you were in the band...
No, that's right, yeah. Tell a story. Then I came back with Long John Baldry. And then I left Long John Baldry after a while and to to start Copperhead with John Cipollina.
Oh,
Mill
right,
Valley.
right. Okay, so that was here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But right before they recorded their first album, I left the band to go back to play with Nicky Hopkins.
Wow. So you're really all over the
Well,
place.
I played with Rod, Never a Dull Moment with Rod, right? I went back
Okay.
then I
So
came
Nicky's
back
on that?
to take possession of the house. Nicky was renting me, and he was still out with the Stones. And that's when I took that time to learn to fly airplanes. So,
Really?
Because Nicky was sending me.
So would you ever
money
fly
every
would you ever
week.
fly yourself?
I was. How do you mean?
I mean, would
I
you
was a
fly
student,
yourself
but-
to England at all, or not really?
Oh, fly across it.
Not like
Hey,
that.
that's an idea. I think it's I'm a bit old now. Maybe that's how I'll go out. Maybe I'll jump in a plane and
See what
run out of
happens.
gas over the Atlantic.
See what happens. Yeah.
But
Amelia
anyway,
Earhart.
Yeah,
Is he still alive?
yeah, it's true. She was probably better looking than. She was. Oh, what an amazing story! That
It is an amazing story. Yeah.
I think they might have found some wreckage.
I'd heard something.
I keep
like
hearing
that.
that.
Yeah. Now, did you know Steve Winwood at all?
No, I didn't know him.
Did you see him?
Ronnie, right. I was finishing the last album I did with Rod
Right.
and Smiler in 1974.
Yeah.
Finished, and Paul and Grace Slick had been calling me, and Freddie Bannister, who was representing them in England, about joining a new band called Jefferson Starship, right? And that happened because while I was recording with Rod. But I wasn't sure what I wanted to do at that point. And Jeanette, my wife Jeanette, and I were living together for the first time over in Westerham, which is just south of London.
Okay.
And so Ron Wood contacted Stevie Winwood because he was looking for a bass player, and put us in touch. And so we had a phone conversation.
You and Stevie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it sounded really great. I always loved Traffic. It would be a good thing. But I ended up traveling back to the States again with Jeanette. My wife Jeanette needed to go to her sister's.
Right.
She wasn't my wife yet, but
Yeah.
she wanted to go to her sister's wedding, and so we came back and paid my own way back because I didn't want to be beholden to Jefferson Starship.
Right.
They were offering to
I see.
pay my way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they met me at the airport with a limousine and a sign of my name
Wow.
on it and stuff. So let's get. Okay.
It's got to be
All right,
inviting.
and they took us to the Seal Rock Inn, and then I went down to meet Paul and Grace again because I played in '73 on Grace's solo album.
Oh, okay.
Manhole, played piano and some bass on it.
Okay.
And that's when they'd asked me to do this new band they were getting together.
And was Marty Ballin in the band as well?
No, not.
Not
You
at
mean
that
the
point?
first Jefferson Starship?
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah,
he was. Yeah.
He
Okay.
when I came over, and so we did our first album. They'd already done one tour with Peter Kalkinen on bass,
Oh, okay.
helping out, and then I came over and we did Dragonfly, the first official Jefferson Starship album.
Right.
And then I went on. Then I did all the touring and playing with them for the next 13 years.
And who was the drummer in that?
John Barbado. He just
Oh,
passed
right,
away.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great drummer.
Right.
Played
So what was all this like, man? This must have
it was
been a hell of an adventure. I would
it's just
think.
like moving from one thing to another, and
Yeah.
you're just young,
Yeah.
You do that, right? Just
13
I wasn't
years is a
with
long
one-
time.
a lot-
13 years is a long
Yeah.
time.
A lot of cats just stay with that one band,
Right.
And I just moved from
Yeah.
it was, as soon as I sort of things would get a bit old or something,
Yeah.
and I'd get infused with some other band and
Right.
hit it off with them, and
Right.
but I'd never just leave a band without finding some
Right. A
replacement.
sub. Yeah. Right.
With Copperhead.
right.
With Stoneground, when I left those guys to came back after their first album, I got Mario Cipollina, John
Okay.
Cipollina's
Oh,
younger
really?
brother.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was his first professional gig.
Is that right?
And he came over and joined for a while, and
Wow.
and that was that. But Long John Baldry, Mickey, and I found a replacement rhythm section. You know,
Bill Champlin told me the other day
Yeah.
that Cipollina was the first guy to ever like hand him a guitar on stage.
oh, okay, yeah. John was a special person.
Yeah, that's what everyone says.
Oh.
Yeah. I only met him one time. I met him one
lived
time.
with him at King Street, you know, in his house there.
I met him one time on one of Nick's gigs when it was Thunder and Lightning.
Oh yeah.
That was like I want to say that was like 1981, something like that.
Oh, okay.
82, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah,
Seemed like a real nice guy.
He was, and I kind of lost touch with all those guys, and lost touch with Nick and John a bit when I went into Jefferson Starship.
They were
land,
great together, man.
because,
They were really great.
Then we sort of got back together.
Yeah.
But after I left, when Starship turned into this awful thing, and
Now, when was it that it turned into an awful thing? I'm just curious.
About 85, in my opinion.
Is that when you left?
Some people might think it was earlier, but depends who you talk to.
I mean, I've heard all kinds of just unbelievable stories about like Grace Slick, like starting a riot. Or something
the band was still really good then. You know?
You were in that.
Oh yeah.
You were there, right?
Oh yeah, I did everything they did between 74 and 84.
Okay, so it's 10 years, yeah.
Before it changed to
Right.
Starship in 85. And those years we had Marty played a song called Caroline he
Right.
wrote on the first album,
Right.
Dragonfly. So, and then he toured with us after that. So,
Right.
so he was in the original Jefferson Starship.
That's what I thought.
I don't think he did that first tour with Peter Calkinen. I'm not sure when he played bass with them.
But when you came in, he was in there.
He was, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it. I didn't know about the ins and outs of the politics of between those guys, but he came in and he was a great guy, Marty. I liked him a lot.
Yeah.
And
I thought they were great together. I thought Grace Slick and Marty.
Oh God, they were great.
Marty Bellin were
and
really.
David Freiberg. They had really good harmony.
Yeah, they were great together. Those two.
Yeah. And David Freiberg, I'd met when I was with Copperhead, and
I didn't know
So
he was in the
introduced me to-
Starship. I didn't know that.
Huh?
I didn't know David Freiberg was in the Starship.
Yeah, David Freiberg was in the last version of the Jefferson Airplane.
Was he really?
Along with Johnny Barbado, the drummer, our drummer.
have no
for Sears.
idea,
So,
man.
yeah, he was in
Wow.
that, and David Freiberg was, and
And he was the one that was in Quicksilver before that.
He was when I was recording the album Insane Asylum for Kathy McDonald at Wally Hyder's in '73, and I went upstairs and David was brought me up to meet Paul and Grace, and then that's when they talked about the Jefferson Starship, and asked me to join, but I just went out and played some blues piano, and somebody pressed a record button and I said, "What, you going to keep that?" And they said, "Yeah." Then Grace was been scribbling, and on the spot she wrote the song "Better Lying Down," which was blues, rowdy blues lyrics.
And so she put it over that
track? She wrote it over that track right there in the studio and went out and sang it.
Wow.
And then I played bass on another track called Epic something or other. And although I had Joey Covington from the Airplane back in 1970 when I met John Cipollina for the first time, had taken me down to play with Papa John Creech on his first solo album.
Now, I
played bass on The Janitor Drives a Cadillac, and Grace was singing. So that was the first Grunt Records project.
Now, was Papa John Creech in the Airplane and Starship, or just?
Yeah, no, he
was in both.
He was in the Airplane, And he did some hot tuner work too with Yorma
Right.
Jack, who
I
I later
remember
played
hearing
with
about
hot
that.
tuner all through the 90s.
Right. Oh, did you really?
Yeah, I was
I
with
didn't know
them.
that.
I played keys for 10 years.
Did you really?
Yeah, through 92.
Wow. I had no idea.
Jack and Yorma, yeah, good friends.
For some reason, I always thought it was just a trio in that band.
Not for that period.
Interesting.
Yeah. Although
Okay.
when Yorma Kalkinen trio, it'd just be Michael Falzerano and Yorma on guitar, and I played keyboards and played bass with my left hand.
So
sometimes.
wow. So you really got deep roots in the whole airplane.
Well, that's
crew,
right.
Really.
You know, and Papa John was with us on. He played on Dragonfly, but also on Red Octopus.
Okay.
Played
Wow. Those were huge
he
albums,
left
weren't they?
after that.
Those were pretty huge albums. Yeah.
It was 6 weeks at number
So
one.
do you know much about him? Do you know much about Papa John?
Only that I really liked hanging out with him.
Yeah.
His early career, I don't know a lot about.
I don't
I'm
either.
sure he didn't know
I
much
gotta-
about mine either.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm curious. I should investigate that because I mean he was obviously
Very cool guy.
He was very much of a blues, violinist. That's for sure.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That first album I did with him, I just
Yeah.
played on one track. Janitor Drives a Cadillac,
Right.
but Grace sang. But he does Somewhere Over the Rainbow,
Oh,
on
wow.
violin and
Wow.
somewhere on the album, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful rendition of the
So
song.
I want to hear about the Germany
Oh,
Germany gig. What happened?
Yeah. Oh God.
Was she drunk?
Well, I was upstairs.
Yeah.
We played Amsterdam. That was the first European tour
Yeah.
place we did, and then we came to play the Lorelei Festival, which is an ancient amphitheater overlooking the Rhine River, and we stayed in Wiesbaden, which is nearby, and half the band went over in the first car, to hang out and listen to the other acts,
Right.
and be there. And I was going over in the second car with Marty and Paul and Grace, and so I came down at 6:00. My wife Jeanette was with our son Dylan upstairs. He was only 1 year old at the time, and came down to go over, and there's all these long faces outside Grace's room, and she was stuck in the room, and the door was shut, and she wouldn't come out, and I think she wasn't well. Although there's much more to the story, which I'm not going to go into.
Oh, come on.
And
Spill the dirt.
But the bottom line is she was unable to play.
Right.
And so Paul refused to go on without her.
Ah.
But the manager's assistant was sort of telling us that, and I was telling them that it's probably not a good idea to do this, not go on in Germany. They're very different than the States. And at that point,
Well, explain that.
well, I remember that they're, it's just post-war.
Right. It was right after the wall came down.
I mean,
or something, right?
not that long before.
Yeah, right.
And the same all over Europe, including
Right.
England. There was a rough edge,
Right.
And so, I was afraid of, and Bill Haley had a riot at his shows. And,
Did he really?
yeah, but I over there, but not to say that they went around doing this all the time. It was just there was something about it didn't feel right.
Yeah.
But Paul was adamant about it, of course, and
About not playing?
about not playing.
Yeah.
And so Marty said he'd play without Grace, but
Right.
not without Paul and Grace. He didn't
Right,
want to be the
right,
only singer.
right.
And so we're on the landline to the site,
Right.
and the instructions were for our road manager went on with David Freiberg, who was there at the site, went on with the promoter, who was German, to tell the audience, and Paul told them to tell the audience they could have their money back, and we'd come back and play for free in a couple of weeks, just like we would in the States.
Right.
If that happened,
Now, was Grace there at that point?
She's in the room.
Okay.
she won't come out the room.
Right.
And
The room at the site.
I mean, it takes a lot for her not to go on. I mean, she would go on. She's very hard, sturdy and hardy, and will not. She's never let any illness stop her. Before. And so Bill Laudner went on with David Freiberg and with the promoter, and they told and then he told the audience in German what was happening. But according to a friend of mine in a German band that was listening out front, that he left a bit out about giving the money back. So Rock started throwing bottles.
Man.
And then they started dismantling the amphitheater and throwing anything they could.
Oh,
They stormed the stage, stole all our gear, smashed the equipment or stole it.
Wow.
Somebody got some gasoline, set fire to the stage.
Oh my
I have
God.
photographs of the stage roaring and burning.
Really?
David, Craig Takiso and John Barbera had split by now when things the vibe started getting weird. But David Freiberg and Bill Laudner had to sort of lock themselves in an old wartime bunker under the stage.
Oh my God!
With Bill Laudner standing there with a mic stand.
Unbelievable.
And people running around and people like our sound man, Howard Danchek, was, kept a cool head, and he was buying his own equipment back and acting like he's stealing his own equipment. Somehow he kept a lot of his stuff. The British Sound Company lost everything. And it was a big, horrible.
So Grace Slick never really said anything to anybody? Or did she?
She didn't come out of the room.
Okay.
And it's a long story. The next day she flew back.
Yeah.
To
So that was the end of the tour.
There was one more show.
Was there? You guys actually played one more show?
And Grace always, drove with the band if we were driving, or flew with us if we were flying.
Right.
But she flew herself up, and then we got to Hamburg, but she had a bit of a tough time of it on that show, and the whole band did. On borrowed equipment, it was all recorded on.
So you're saying you guys had your own you had your own back line up until then?
Oh, we always carried our own gear. Everywhere we went. Yeah.
Gotcha.
We lost everything. I lost all my guitars.
Really?
My 63 jazz bass, my old friend.
Oh my God!
Yeah, and my new Irwin bass guitar.
How horrible!
Tom Lieber, who was working at the Irwin Guitar Factory as an apprentice luthier,
right,
and then became a luthier, built my guitar, and that was stolen. And then, but that came back eventually. It's right there in this case.
Wow.
Yeah. And but my 63 jazz bass never showed up. I think it's in Holland somewhere because it's near the border.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, that was
what a nightmare.
Crazy times. But so but this TV show in Hamburg, a little fight broke out in the audience, and Grace was really out of it. But she flew back to the States.
Yeah.
And we went on to play Nebworth, opening for Genesis.
Okay.
And with Devo opening the show.
Mm-hmm.
And
was Grace there for that or not?
No, she'd flown back,
right,
and she went into rehab for a while.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, and then Marty was going to carry on, and then he decided not to. He did that show, but in Nebworth, in England. But then he decided not to carry on, and
did he leave the band at that point?
The band kind of changed. We used to have a producer, Larry Cox, all through the 70s, and he used to be Buddy Holly's old drummer, and he was a great producer and engineer. But we got a new engineer, producer, Ron Neverson, who was really, really good, but he took the band in a slightly different direction, and Paul had hired Ron, and
now, was Grace still in the band or not?
She left for one album and then came back.
She left for one album.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
and then Mickey Thomas ended up in the band, didn't he?
Yes, he came in after Marty left.
Right. What year did Marty leave? Do you
And I'd asked for the band. Bought out a friend of mine from New York, Jess Roden, who was an amazing British blues soul singer.
Oh, okay.
And he came out, but the band wanted a higher
Mickey.
voice, for the harmonies and things. So Mickey's a great singer, so so he got the gig.
Yeah.
And then
how did the three of them get along, Kentner and Marty Bellin and Grace? How did they get along?
Oh, they got on really good.
They get along pretty good?
Yeah.
And then how was same with... I know you're not going to spill the beans on any of this stuff. But...
yeah, what's the point? It's like rock and roll, man. It's like
See, I'm the Rona. You're talking to the Rona Barrett of the blues here, man. That's what you don't understand.
I'm in a band. I look at try to look at the.
No, I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
That's what I have a thing about. I have a thing about these behind the scenes.
Right. Where are they now?
VH1. Because you see some. Some guy screaming at another guy and throwing his guitar down in a spinal tantrum.
And then he might show up. Right? Then he might show up at the guy's gig accident.
Well, no, but they're having this big fight,
Right,
and that's what the audience sees, right?
Yeah, that's right.
What they don't know is that later that night they're in the bar drinking like nothing happened.
Right, exactly.
Right, it's just
exactly.
It's yeah. I mean, I don't know.
I think a lot of people don't really kind of get the whole thing of what musicians go through on the road, and just all the, I talk about this all the time, but, we have quite a life in terms of just what we're kind of, the slot that we're sort of forced into is not an easy slot.
No, I mean, you have to sort of go out in front of a bunch of people
and be in a different place all the
idiot
time.
Of yourself.
And be in a different place.
And sometimes making an idiot of yourself.
Right.
And you have to get through this stuff, but then you have the good nights and the
good nights are what keep you going.
Yeah. And then you got hopefully the professionalism that gets you through the okay nights.
Right.
But then occasionally you get something goes wrong or whatever, and usually it's for the most part only you that really. Or maybe some of the other band members know,
but not the audience.
Happened, not
the audience
usually.
Almost never knows it.
Although not that they're not musically adept. I just mean but
we're paying attention to detail.
Basically, an audience is going to a show to have a good time.
Right.
You have to really screw up to make it that bad.
That's true. Like playing the wrong key for 5 measures or something.
If you play the songs they want to hear.
Right.
So that's a whole nother thing. It's like with Jimi Hendrix. I remember when Mitch Mitchell in '69 had asked me to play bass in a band he was getting together. And then he brought me down to Albert Hall, the Royal Albert Hall, and to see him play with Jimmy. I'd already, I'd met Jimmy already, and he'd sat in with Sankopal Dream when I played with him at the Speakeasy once.
Wow.
And anyway, but Mitch, I knew him a little bit, and so he asked me to come down, and Jimmy was at that point somewhat disgruntled with the way things were going down. He was. I remember him telling the audience he was sick of. They were yelling out "Foxy Lady" and everything.
Yeah,
and
burn his guitar.
I don't want to play this stuff, and I just want to play the blues. And he started playing this amazing blues.
Wow.
He did 2 nights. I went down to one of the nights. And the band sounded great, I thought. And,
Mitch was a great
but I didn't know at that point that there was some tension going on between Jimmy and Noel, and stuff.
Right, I'd heard that.
So I don't know, but Mitch was, I was going to play bass, and but I went, and I was doing a lot of session work with Marion Siegel and Jade and all this stuff, and then I just came to the States, well, the United States was beckoning really big time.
Well, it sounds to me
I
like
sometimes wonder what would have happened if I had done that with
it's
Mitch.
really interesting because you really got to experience both scenes kind of at the highlight of each in a way.
Yeah.
You know, both London and San Francisco.
I just kept going back and forth until
which is pretty
I
awesome.
settled here with Starship, Jefferson Starship in '74.
Right.
Jeanette and I settled. We got married, you know, and had kids, and it just pretty much settled down here in the States.
But it sounds like you did a lot of touring.
I did.
Sounds like a good 20, 30 years of touring.
I did do a lot of touring.
Yeah.
And now with David Nelson Band and Moon Alice and Zero was Steve Kimmock.
Yeah.
Played bass with those guys.
Are they still going?
Well, I used to play keys with
Zero?
I love playing bass with them. Yeah, we're doing a show. We're doing a tour coming up in November.
Oh, okay.
And we don't play a lot, but we still do it. And my close friend Bobby Vega was a bass player.
Yeah, I know Bobby.
And,
I know who Bobby Vega is.
And then I played keys back in the day for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then Chip Rowland also played keys a bit. But when I was off with Hot Tuna, but Chip mostly played keys, and Bobby was the bass player, a brilliant player.
Right.
Really a master of his instrument.
Yeah, And I saw him play, I think, only a couple times. I saw him with Butterfield one time.
Yeah,
a long time ago.
But those guys asked me to play, and so I'm playing bass with them because I'm a bass player.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think I'm a bass player that plays piano or something. But it depends who you or a piano player that plays bass.
Well, it's good to know two instruments. I'll say that.
Yeah, I'm really a bass player. So we have some good times with Zero. It's a great time, and Moon Alice, as I say.
Right now, were you in Zero when Cipollina was in there too, or just Kimmock?
That was right before I started. I think I joined Hot Tuna in '92. Started playing with those guys and Yorma and Jack and Michael, and then somewhere right around there I started playing with Zero. Mm-hmm. But really only when, and then John he'd left at that point.
So you were
in 1988 I organized all the music for the Soviet American Peace Walk.
Oh, really?
A bunch of Soviet citizens had got together to march across the U.S. for peace. And
that's something I wanted to talk to you about. I wanted to talk to you about a lot of your political.
Well, I had John. I had all those musicians, Jerry Garcia, and everybody all came down, and I asked him to, and we're totally into it, And Zero came down and agreed to be the backing band, and
that was '88.
And I asked John to do it, and he came down and played with Zero. Mm-hmm. So that was
But he had started Zero, hadn't he?
I think he and Steve and Greg.
They all started at the same time.
I wasn't sort of playing with them at that point,
right.
So I don't know. But when I started touring with Zero, John wasn't on the tour.
Okay.
Martine, and everything, but not John. Although as I say, I did all the playing with. Or my playing with, although we did some jamming together, together here and there, but and of course Copperhead, we did a lot of playing together back in.
Well, tell me a little bit about some of the political benefits and stuff that you've done, because it sounds like you've done quite a few.
Yeah,
that you've organized. I understand.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Over the years,
you said this.
A lot of it was connected with Central America, back in the El Salvador and Guatemala.
Right.
We're having these civil wars.
Right.
And because of the oppression from the right-wing dictatorships.
Right.
That were supported by
America.
Our government.
Yeah. Right.
And
CIA,
and so all these poor refugees were coming across the border.
Yeah.
And we had a bunch in the Bay Area. And so I did a radio drive. Jeanette and I, we did a radio drive, and we did an album called Watchfire, which had a lot of friends on there helping out, and the human rights and rainforest issues, you know, and just did a radio drive to raise food and clothing for these refugees who were hiding in the safe houses.
I remember there were
San
like
Francisco.
sanctuaries and stuff
that's
in
right.
the Bay.
Yeah, it was just starting up.
Yeah.
Then, the sanctuary.
I remember because I remember there was a church in Berkeley that was doing that at the time.
And Noe Valley Ministry was one of the drop-off points.
Yeah.
And it was a massive reaction of
Right.
people. A tremendous amount of stuff showed
Right.
up. And, I got a frantic call from Mary O'Brien, who was helping to run the Noe Valley Ministry. She's now Mary McHugh, and who ran Yerba Buena Garden Center until very recently for years. And she called me up saying that they couldn't open the doors. You know, they were stuck because there was so much stuff, gifts and donations for the.
Well, that must have felt good for you.
A lot of people cared about that stuff. You know,
that must have felt
didn't
good.
know what to do. You know, so we had in the hall in Noe Valley, we had a day when they all came in. You know, on a certain. It's not, you know, came in the refugees, and they're some had really, well, all their clothing was really worn, and it was really sorry, and they left, you know, in these all brand new stuff. And,
that's wonderful.
The kids look great.
Yeah.
But of course, it didn't really help their plight politically. So
Right,
you do
in
the
the
best you
country
can.
itself, yeah.
Jeanette and I we had a song called Guatemala, and we had that was a track on our Watchfire album, and we did a human rights song music video, you know, and using actual footage of human rights abuses in Guatemala. And because when they were sent back, they were killed. And we had produced, the director was Ray Tears, who was an Emmy Award-winning film director.
Wow.
And so we just try to do our bit, you know, and I don't know, it's never enough, you know.
Let me pause this for 1 minute. Let's get a little.
Yeah.
So you were talking about some of the political things you've done regarding music and using music as a way of raising awareness on political refugees and countries that are in turmoil and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it just happened because we spent time. Jeanette and I had spent some time in Guatemala.
Oh, had you?
Yeah.
Wow.
And while we were there in '78, I think it was, we saw these guys riding around in the back of, you know, with their machine guns.
Right.
In the back of jeeps, riding around in their military clothing, and standing on the street corners, and then the post office was blown up while we were there, and the gas station. I mean, it was a pretty intense.
That sounds very
intense period.
Yeah.
And we made some friends up in the Santiago, Atitlan area, and my brother-in-law and his family had started were starting a hotel which became Posada de Santiago in Atitlan, fantastic place, and that's when all this stuff was just beginning, you know. And then in the 80s it really took off, and things really got bad, and a lot of massacres.
Right. Kind of like Chile and places like that as well. Yeah.
Dictatorships were relatively small number of families, like something like 50, you know, just like a small, like 15 families and their offshoots. And descendants from the conquistadores, really, and
Yeah.
they and then you had the poor people that were kept in their place, and then the military would just keep their iron fist, and like through violence, and intimidation, and
Pretty horrific
yeah,
stuff.
that's what these poor people were fleeing from.
Yeah,
right. Was the poverty and the oppression,
Mm-hmm.
and anybody that stood up there. I mean, like Father Stanley Ruthers, who was a Catholic minister in Santiago.
Was he the one that was
mission.
killed?
He was killed. Yeah,
Killed in his church, I think.
Yeah. He was killed by the death squads. They had death squads that would go around.
Horrific stuff.
There was a period I was, told I shouldn't go down there. Somebody sent me a newspaper that had a bunch of big lists of people.
And your name was on it?
Yeah.
Oh,
but then,
God.
not just me. But I mean, I think Joan Baez was on there. All these people.
Wow.
And
yeah, but you were there.
Yeah. I mean, but I did. So the next time I went down,
yeah,
I didn't go a couple of times and a few times there. But the next time, you find yourself looking over your shoulder and stuff. But I think it's, I was basically small fry in their mind,
Yeah, but still.
But, still it's
that's hairy stuff.
And so I did, and Rainforest Action Network did some stuff with Randy Hayes.
Now you part of that?
Just helping those guys out, and here and there,
Now was that all
however
over?
I could.
Was that all over South America? Or?
Oh no! I'm sorry. I here in the States.
Oh, in the States.
Rainforest Action Network.
All right.
Randy.
Yeah.
Was going all over the place. Yes, but he was really committed. His life was always in danger.
Yeah. Wow.
And I'd help out Wavy and Johanna.
Oh,
Larry
okay.
Brilliant.
Yeah, Wavy Gravy.
They'd have these fundraisers. That's like that one up there with the Blues Against Blindness.
Yeah.
That's for Sabre.
Right.
Did that with Yorma and Michael
Wow.
Falzerano.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it was. I used to just play solo piano, in the cafeteria, or I'd be on stage with the main act, depending.
Wow.
What but I was always trying to do something for him.
Yeah, you're saying
that's how I ended up in Hot Tuna. I knew Jack and Yorma from years ago.
Okay.
Before that, but I hadn't seen them in years.
Right.
And I think they were on the bill it was Dr. John and Hot Tuna were on the bill, the main act, and I was just playing with my head down and got a tap on my shoulder, and it was Yorma and Jack standing there, and
really
said that they were recording an album in Sweetwater the next day.
Wow, and they wanted you on.
And would you come and sit in?
That's awesome.
And I went down and sat in and stayed with them for 10 years.
Yeah, that's awesome.
10 very happy years with those guys.
So you toured all over with them.
Michael was also there. With Jack was there and Harvey Sorgan. It was Hot Tuna.
Right.
And then it was just when Jack wasn't there, because I think Jack did a little bit of playing with the Paul Kantner's Next Generation Jefferson Starship.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, when he'd go off with those guys, then and Yorma and I would do with Michael Falzerano.
So you'd play bass on those.
We'd be do it as a 3-piece.
Would it still be called Hot Tuna or just
Yorma Calcutta Trio?
Right.
JKT. We tour Italy a lot.
Right. Oh, that's awesome, man.
Great
How
place,
fun.
Yeah. And
you must have had great tours. It sounds like most of your tours were like pretty first class,
Oh yeah.
Bus and flying to gigs and stuff like that.
Yorma and Jack always have a really strong, certain
following. They seem to have very together.
Dedicated following, right?
Right, exactly. They've had an amazing following.
Yeah,
I think,
I mean, just a sort of, but there's other things I can't think of, but just trying to do your bit. It's never enough. I mean,
You mean as far as
as
political?
far as helping out,
Doing political help, yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's no,
Have you worked much with Monty Raitt on stuff? Or
not personally. I know Hutch
Really?
very well, and
Is he in her
I've
band?
met her a few times, and we sat in together here and there.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys got a lot in common in terms of activism.
Bonnie Raitt, she's wonderful. What a great player too. Yeah. Same with Hutch. What a great bass player.
Yeah. So Jack's still alive, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Very much.
And
so.
they're still doing the hot tuna thing.
Yep. Jack and Yorma.
Yeah.
Michael and I left in 2001 or somewhere around then.
Right.
We'd been doing it 10 years, and Jack and Yorma went off as a duo, and then they included Barry on Mittenhoff on mandolin.
Mm-hmm. So they kind of went acoustic for a while.
Acoustic, yeah.
Right.
It was great.
Which is kind of
Which
what
is
they
going
were
back
originally.
to what they did.
That's kind of what they did originally.
They did originally, but they also did the electric hot tuner originally.
Right.
Right, with the
all I remember
the
is
heavy duty. I mean, and I'm talking about real electric.
Right.
Trio.
See, I only had the first album. I think the first one's with
the Yorma's solo album.
No, it's the Hot Tuna record with the kind of red and purple cover or something.
Okay, yeah.
It had Will Scarlett playing harmonica.
Right. Will.
I asked Yorma about it when I met him, and he said, "Oh yeah, he just jumped up on stage and started playing with us. He wasn't asked to play."
Yeah,
it's funny.
Well, but we, but Yorma had the electric trio, and the just Jack and Yorma acoustic,
right.
And
so I can't remember. I think the
he'd
first album was
over the years he'd do the electric,
right,
and sometimes he'd do the trio.
But I think the first album was acoustic, as I recall.
Mostly,
but I can't swear to that. I don't remember.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. Yeah, may have had a drummer. I can't remember. Yeah.
But it's crazy, crazy times. But
So tell me about. Didn't you play some stuff with John Lee for a while?
Yeah. I met John through Rich Kirch,
right?
Another really close friend of mine. He was John Lee's band leader,
right? Sure was.
13 years.
Yeah.
And I played with them at a gig, and they're filling in for Liz, who was a keyboard player, and who was sick, and but that was fun. But and he came down and played on my solo album, The Long Haul.
Did he?
Yeah.
Wow.
We wrote a song together called Elizabeth.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and
what was his songwriting style like?
Would
he just kind of make it up as he
made it up as he went along?
As he went along,
because I recorded the backing track.
Right.
No, I didn't. I recorded that was all live. I wrote the backing track. I mean. And then I had John Lee's, Bryant Mills and Ron Perry and Rich playing in the studio with Paul Stubblebine, the engineer, and I played the piano. And then we had John Lee came down with Mike Kappas.
Oh, okay.
And John Lee played. We did first one take, right? And I said to him, I really want to mostly hear. I just want to hear you play guitar.
Right.
And he's getting on right at this point.
Right.
And he just, okay. But then I said, because most of the people that used him on their records just wanted that, that voice,
right.
The John Lee record identifiable voice. So I said, just play the guitar. I want to concentrate. It's a slow blues. Just go ahead. But I put a mic and I said, but if you feel like singing something, go for it.
Now, was he playing acoustic or electric?
Electric. Yeah.
Okay.
So just go for it, And,
yeah.
He did. He just started singing, and he came up with Elizabeth. And, And
he seemed to always improv on his lyrics. That was my impression.
But he played a lot of guitar.
Make stuff. Did he? Did he retune, or did he stay in?
He just did his
thing.
Stayed
in regular tuning.
It's perfect because it's John Lee, right?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And so he finished, and then Mike had warned me that you only get one take with John, you know. And he said, "Let's go again. Let's go again."
Oh, good, good.
So I got 2 takes.
Good.
I think we used the first take.
That's nice.
But
so first take is usually the best.
It was amazing, you know. Just what a talent.
Yeah.
And Rich Kirch, of course.
Yeah.
Played with all the.
Rich played with all kinds of people in Chicago. Yeah, he sure did, man. Yeah, he was really there at a great time. I think he was there pretty much through the 70s.
Yeah. Sweet guy.
When a lot of those guys are still alive. So tell me what you got going these days. I know you got this brand new record that, did you put that together for Nick Gravenitis?
Yeah. Thomas Yates, who's a comic book illustrator,
right?
He's a blues fan and a friend of Nick's. He came to me and asked if I'd do a just piano and voice with Nick, because Nick can't play guitar anymore because of arthritis.
Right.
So, and at first I didn't really want to go down that road, you know.
Now, why was that?
Well, I just felt like, you know, this probably could find somebody else who plays better than me, you know. But so I don't know. I played with Nick for years before that.
I know. That's
I don't know. I just wasn't. I don't know. I just didn't.
Weren't kind of feeling it at that point.
I didn't think it would work going on the road and stuff with taking that on the road at that point. It was just my head. I was doing so much other stuff too.
Well, now when was that?
Like I was doing the Steam Hammer album at
Okay,
time.
So when are you speaking that you were trying to go on, that you could have gone on the road?
It was about 2020, early 2022 or something like that. It came to me, so, but then I started thinking about it, you know, and I thought, well, okay. So I started calling friends and started, you know, Wally Ingram, you know, who's played percussion with David Lindley all those years.
Oh, okay.
Drums, and he plays. I've been playing with him again with the David Nelson band. You know, he's a really good friend, and so I got him involved because I wanted to get that old time feel.
Right, of blues.
He's not playing a drum kit. He's playing African drums with a kick drum on it, and playing brushes on another African drum. You know? So it gives it a certain old back porch feel. I want to get.
Sounds a little bit similar to what Elvin's doing.
Yeah, maybe. Jimmy Vivino, you know, had Jimmy play a little bit of guitar on 3 tracks. Brilliant. You know, he could do just that supportive. I didn't want to get guitar sort of wailing over everything because out of respect for Nick, because he was, you know, he's such a great guitar player and he's unable to do it anymore, but he can sing amazing.
He sure does.
And so I just, you know, and I had some tracks. I used a sousaphone on one track.
Really?
Yeah. And Keith Baltz, and then Mike Dixon, Willard Dixon on clarinet on one track. It just lends itself to a New Orleansy kind of feel, you know, and lends itself. The song it's all about Nick's songs, you know,
right.
And then Charlie Musselwhite is playing on 3 tracks,
right, and they go way back.
Yeah, and then one track I had my bandmate Lester Chambers playing harp.
Oh, okay.
And on a slow blues, it's just piano and harp.
Cool.
And but Nick came down and sang his, you know, came down 3 times. You know.
Now, did he do overdubs?
And then another one in 2023.
Was that overdubs or?
Yeah, he sang. Well, no,
or
the
were they live?
First one was just a piano.
It was just you and him.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we worked on that, you know. So
okay.
So but so it's a combination, but we got that old timey feel, and it felt his vocals was so strong.
Yeah,
but
he's
he
such a
wasn't
strong
doing well
singer.
physically,
Yeah, but he's really such a strong singer.
Yeah.
That's the thing
And now
about
he's,
Nick, man.
they're just doing benefit. They just did a big benefit
Right,
for him. And,
right. Yeah.
But he's so.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was because Thomas Yates. Thomas had chosen the material, so he had the songs in mind, and he did all research on Nick's shows, some of which I was on, back in the day, and chose the songs, and then said, "What about this one?" and stuff. And yeah, that sounds good. So we. He brought Nick to the rehearsal, to the studio,
Right.
recordings, and he's did the beautiful cover,
Yeah.
'cause
He did the art on that?
Oh yeah.
That's nice. That's a really nice
it's
cover.
just
Yeah.
fascinating cover. Yeah.
He did a really good one.
And so
Maybe I'll
yeah,
hold
there
this
it
up.
is.
Let me do that. Hold this up. This
Yeah.
is the album we're talking about, folks.
Rogue Blues. And
Rogue Blues.
Nick came up with that name.
Did he?
Rogue Blues.
He is a rogue.
Yep, it's great.
Yes,
Great
he
name.
is.
Anyway,
Yeah. Well, he's
it's
a
out
great.
on
He's,
MC Records.
is that on MC? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, they're out of Connecticut or something. Yeah.
Mark Carpentier.
Mark
is-
Carpentier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it came out on April 15th.
Okay. So it's been out
Yeah, a little bit.
not even a little
Yeah.
over a month.
Yeah.
Has it done all right so
Yeah.
far?
Yeah, it's got
Good.
So far, reviews
Selling
have all
some
been
CDs and
pretty
stuff?
good. I mean,
Is it selling some CDs?
I have no idea.
Yeah, right. It's hard to know these
I mean,
days.
it did sold out, and I remember it sold out on Amazon or something. And,
Oh, wow.
Because it came in on the Billboard Blues charts at number 6
Oh, that's great.
out of the blue, and I don't
Wonderful.
but I don't know where it's at now. I have
Yeah.
no idea.
And this was MC Records.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
Yeah.
so I did doing that, and then before that, I'd done the Steam Hammer with Martin Pugh.
Oh,
We did,
okay.
we did this around.
Now, where do I know that name?
Yeah, well,
Martin Pugh.
Martin Pugh. He plays blues guitar with
Uh-huh.
Steam Hammer back in 1968 and 9,
Right.
and then through to the mid 70s.
Okay.
He was the guitar player, and then Keith Ralph produced from the Yardbirds produced
Oh, really?
the last album,
Oh, I didn't know
and
that.
then Martin and Keith went off to form the band Armageddon.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not
And then
hip to
Keith
the-
Ralph tragically died.
Yeah, didn't he
Electrocuted,
electrocuted, yeah.
And but Martin carried on doing that stuff for a while and playing. He was on the first Rod Stewart album.
Oh, really?
Not Gasoline Alley, the one right before that he was on.
Oh, okay.
And but he carried on working, but he had some tragedy in his family, and he dedicated his time to bringing up his girls, his daughters, but he just carried on playing, and then he contacted me right before the pandemic about
Putting that out.
about playing at Glastonbury Festival.
Now, what label is this on, by the way?
German label.
German label?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
called MIG, wasn't it?
MIG?
Yeah, MIG Music
Right.
in Germany.
And this is
it
brand
came out
new.
all over there. It also got really, good write-ups, thank God. But
Now, is this on CD as well?
yes.
Are you guys doing the Nick one on LP or not?
I don't know. It's up to
Yeah,
Mark.
okay.
I mean,
Yeah. Some people are doing them and some people aren't.
I produced the record. But
Yeah. You
the
produced
music,
this one?
yeah, that one as
Okay.
well. So here.
Yeah.
But we were going to do the Glastonbury Festival with Steam Hammer, and
Okay.
Martin asked he said, Glastonbury Festival said if you could get Steam Hammer back together, we'll give you a slot on the Avalon stage. So
Wow.
he asked me if I'd do it because Steam Hammer had played the very first Glastonbury Festival.
Wow.
And it was just a farmer's field.
Really?
Yeah, they were on the poster. And so that's the only reason we were going to get on the
Are you guys
festival.
playing it? Or has it already happened?
Well, the pandemic hit, and that was
Oh, that was the end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but we carried on. We hit it off and started playing. You know, we communicated through the years, because we first saw each other when I played on their first solo album, Steamhammer, in 1969 in London.
Mm-hmm.
Recorded with them on piano. Yeah.
And was that a blues record?
Yeah.
Kind of blues rock? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So just out of curiosity, how did you deal with the pandemic when that happened?
Well, we just stayed in, you know.
I mean, how did it feel to just be kind of completely?
Well, we were lucky, really, in so much as, I mean, we had our grandkids here, and my daughter's family, and Jeanette, you know, and we really were able to keep our head in a good space, and I did a lot of recording.
Did you?
In my studio, yeah, lots of recording.
Yeah.
In fact, we're working on the Steamhammer project, but also another solo project, along with people sending me stuff to play on, and I just record it.
Now, is this your studio? That
Yeah, these right here, these two screens here.
Okay. Anyway, Pete, I want to just say thank you so much. Yeah. It's been a great interview, and you've got some great stories, man.